Have you ever encountered a woman whose face seems to defy the passage of time? Not through surgical intervention or expensive cosmetics, but through something far more profound in inner luminosity that transcends chronological age. This phenomenon speaks to truths that Carl Jung understood deeply. The psyche shapes the body, consciousness molds reality, and the soul's condition determines physical expression. In American culture, where youth is often worshipped and aging feared, we've lost touch with ancient wisdom about the relationship between inner vitality and outer appearance. What you're about to discover will fundamentally transform how you understand aging, beauty, and the mysterious connection between psychological wholeness and physical radiance. The mystery, beyond the mirror. When Jung spoke of the psyche's influence on physical appearance, he understood something our contemporary American society has largely forgotten. Consciousness shapes reality in ways we're only beginning to comprehend scientifically. Some women carry within them a vibration that operates outside the conventional laws of aging, a quality that cannot be purchased at Sephora or achieved through Botox. Picture a woman walking through a crowded Manhattan coffee shop or a Los Angeles farmer's market. She doesn't demand attention through effort or artifice. Instead, she possesses an indefinable radiance that seems to bend the light around her. Her face tells stories of a life fully lived, yet appears remarkably fresh. Her eyes hold ancient wisdom alongside childlike curiosity. This is the archetypal feminine in its most luminous form, what Jung would recognize as the individuated woman. The individuated woman has undertaken what Jung called the process of individuation, the integration of conscious and unconscious, leading to psychological wholeness. Women who walk this path often find that their external transformation mirrors their internal metamorphosis. They embody what Jung termed the eterno-feminine, timeless essence that transcends biological aging. In the American context, where we're bombarded with anti-aging advertisements and celebrity culture's impossible standards, this natural radiance stands in stark contrast to the manufactured perfection we're sold. These luminous women aren't fighting time, they're dancing with it. The anima mundi and collective consciousness. Jung spoke of the anima mundi, the world soul, that invisibly connects all beings. The women who access this timeless quality have learned to attune themselves to this cosmic rhythm. In our hyper-individualistic American culture, we've become disconnected from this collective dimension. Locked in our separate bubbles of social media feeds and personal brands, these radiant women have maintained or rediscovered something essential. Their story is part of something larger and more timeless than personal achievement or Instagram-worthy moments. This validates what mystics have always known. Consciousness shapes time, and time shapes the body that houses consciousness. Transforming pain into wisdom in American society. We're taught to avoid pain, medicate discomfort, and present a flawless exterior to the world. We've created entire industries around numbing ourselves, from pharmaceutical solutions to endless distractions through technology and entertainment. But the luminous woman operates differently. These women share a common capacity. They transform suffering into wisdom without becoming bitter. While others collapse under the weight of disappointment, they alchemize pain into light. Consider a woman who has experienced profound loss, perhaps divorce, in a culture that still stigmatizes it. Career setbacks in our achievement-obsessed economy, or personal traumas that would break many people. Yet her face carries an inexplicable softness. She hasn't avoided life's difficulties. Instead, she has practiced what Jung called active imagination, working creatively with the unconscious to achieve genuine healing. This prevents the internal toxins that would otherwise lead to premature aging from taking root in her system. Her face doesn't show the hardness that comes from repression or the collapse that comes from victimhood. Instead, it radiates integrated experience. The ancient Greeks distinguished between chronos, linear mechanical time, and kairos, sacred time, the moment of transformation. In our American productivity culture, we worship chronos. We measure everything in quarterly earnings, deadline pressures, and the relentless march toward retirement. The mysteriously youthful woman, however, lives primarily in chronos, touches her only when necessary, but never defines her essence. The shadow integration journey, the beginning of this path, involves what Jung called encountering the shadow, the parts of ourselves we prefer to hide. In American culture, with our emphasis on positivity, success narratives, and personal branding, we expend enormous energy repressing our darkness. Think of the carefully curated Instagram feed, the LinkedIn profile that shows only achievements, the therapist speak that sometimes masks rather than reveals. This repression manifests in faces, posture, and presence. Many Americans carry tremendous tension from maintaining their public personas: the successful professional, the perfect parent, the wellness guru, the social justice warrior. The mask becomes so heavy it weighs down the spirit and ages the flesh. The radiant woman has made peace with her shadow. Rather than fighting it, she has integrated it. From this integration emerges an inner fullness that radiates outward, what the ancient alchemists called the philosopher's stone. When the internal conflicts that constantly drain vital energy cease, this force is liberated for renewal. The face assumes a natural ease. The eyes clear, free from the fog of internal struggles. The posture reflects genuine confidence rather than performed self-assurance. In American terms, she's done the deep work that therapy promises but rarely delivers, not just understanding her issues intellectually, but truly integrating them at the soul level. The nature of psychological time. Jung understood that the psyche operates according to its own temporal laws. He called this synchronicity meaningful coincidences, pointing to a reality beyond linear causality. The women who carry this extraordinary spiritual quality partially exist outside normal time. They've developed what Jung called the observing self, a part of consciousness capable of remaining present while stepping back from the daily drama. That inner stance allows them to witness their own processes without identifying with aging itself. Here's the paradoxical shield. Precisely because they consciously perceive aging, the process slows down. They age as participants, not victims. In American culture, we often resist aging frantically. The billion-dollar anti-aging industry, the obsession with youth culture, the marginalization of older people in media and employment. This resistance actually accelerates aging because it creates tremendous psychological tension. The luminous woman neither denies nor obsesses over aging. She witnesses it with compassionate awareness. Related to this is Jung's concept of the transcendent function, the bridge between conscious and unconscious that makes genuine transformation possible. Through this psychological awareness, a kind of temporal bubble forms around them where the ordinary laws of aging operate differently. Yes, they age, but the pace of their aging follows the soul's rhythm, not the clock's relentless ticking. Living recognition of soul work. Perhaps you've encountered these luminous women yourself, in your yoga class, at a bookstore, leading a company, volunteering in the community, or perhaps as a grandmother whose vitality defies her years. They move with a dignity that testifies to inner work accomplished. Their wounds have transformed into soul strength rather than exhaustion. Their laughter emerges from deep layers. Their silence brings peace. In their presence, something mysterious and admirable awakens. Contemporary neuroscience and epigenetics are now beginning to understand what Jung grasped intuitively decades ago. Research shows that emotions directly impact gene expression. Chronic stress, endemic in our achievement-oriented, always connected American lifestyle, accelerates cellular aging. Conversely, states of inner peace and joy promote regeneration. Even telomeres, biological markers of aging, respond significantly to our psychological state. Studies conducted at universities across America have shown that meditation, meaningful connection, and psychological well-being correlate with longer telomeres and slower aging at the cellular level. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious provides these women access to an inexhaustible source of renewal. They draw from archetypal feminine energies supported across millennia. The body, as sacred, also spoke of the religious function of the soul, not institutional religion, but a sense of the sacred that can permeate daily life. Women who cultivate this sense treat their bodies as temples of consciousness. This reverence protects them from degradation. In American consumer culture, we're encouraged to view our bodies as projects to be optimized, products to be marketed, or problems to be solved. The beauty industrial complex, diet culture, and fitness obsession often create adversarial relationships with our own flesh. The luminous woman has transcended this alienation. Her body is not separate from her soul, the visible expression of her inner being. The radiant woman has also learned what Jung called the art of letting go, releasing what no longer serves without clinging to outmoded patterns. She knows each phase of life involves an inner death and rebirth, and she meets these transitions with grace rather than resistance. While others in American culture desperately cling to youth, the middle-aged woman dressing like her daughter, the executive terrified of becoming irrelevant, the celebrity undergoing endless procedures, the luminous woman consciously practices release. She retains only what allows her soul to live and grow. Everything else falls away without leaving traces or shadows on her face. This letting go extends to others, expectations, and social roles. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear in daily life. In America, we're particularly prone to over-identification with personas. The career woman, the soccer mom, the influencer, the activist, the creative. When we become too identified with these masks, we rigidify into fixed patterns. The radiant woman wears her masks lightly, like seasonal clothing appropriate to the occasion. Beneath all personas, what Jung called the eternal feminine operates autonomously, an inner structure working independently of conscious will, always serving higher growth. Dancing with time rather than fighting it. This inner principle prevents women from ossifying when they lose their regenerative, cyclical natures and become governed solely by linear time. Through the transcendent function, she has found a third way beyond the opposites, youth and age, beauty and decay, meaning and absurdity. In her presence, we feel that time is friendly. She doesn't battle time, she dances with it. There's a quality of spaciousness around her, as if the burden of time temporarily lifts for those nearby. Jung would have recognized in her the archetype not of the naive maiden or the desperate cougar, but of the wise woman, a living embodiment of timeless wisdom. These women have deepened their access to the collective unconscious, the eternally self-renewing feminine dimension of the psyche. Through dreams, intuitions, and perceptions, the unconscious continuously balances the ego's rigidity, keeping them aligned with genuine developmental pathways and avoiding the psychic stagnation that otherwise accelerates aging. The alchemical extraordinary spiritual quality of these women ultimately represents a harmonious integration of many Jungian concepts. They have understood what Jung called the union of opposites, the balance of masculine and feminine energies within themselves, the integration of light and shadow, the acceptance of strength and vulnerability. In American culture, we tend toward extremes: the girl boss who rejects femininity, the traditional woman who denies her power, the spiritual seeker who avoids worldly engagement, the career woman who neglects her inner life. The individuated woman has achieved what Jung called the hieros gamosta, sacred marriage of opposites, within her own psyche. This inner marriage is psychological alchemy that transforms everything it touches. Their faces become living mandala symbols of the self, understood as the natural expression of inner wholeness. The symmetry of their features testifies not to genetic fortune, but to balance achieved through conscious inner work. The light in their eyes reflects the integration of all parts into a harmonious whole. The relationship with suffering, this quality becomes most evident in their relationship with suffering. Where others bear permanent marks of pain, these women have developed what Jung called a religious attitude toward psychic things. They're aware that every wound carries within it the seed of healing. Every crisis is potential for higher awareness. In American culture, we often pathologize suffering or try to eliminate it through positive thinking, medication, or distraction. The therapeutic industry sometimes inadvertently teaches victimhood, identifying so strongly with our wounds that they become our identity. The luminous woman has transcended this trap. She has achieved what Jung called differentiated feeling, the capacity to distinguish emotions serving growth from those merely perpetuating old patterns of suffering. She can grieve deeply without drowning. She can truly feel anger without poisoning her system. She can experience fear without becoming paralyzed. This emotional maturity protects her from the inflammatory responses associated with accelerated aging, the chronic cortisol elevation that characterizes stressed-out American life, rushing from meeting to meeting, checking phones compulsively, worrying about money and status destroys health and ages the body. Her nervous system remains regulated even under pressure. This physiological coherence has profound effects on hormones, immune function, and cellular renewal. The future-oriented consciousness, perhaps most striking, is these women's relationship with the future. While others cling to youth or fear time's passage, the birthday anxiety, the anti-aging obsession, the panic about becoming invisible after 40, they have developed what Jung called prospective thinking, the ability to recognize each moment's growth potential. They live to become, rather than to preserve. This consciousness creates a field of possibility. They attract experiences and relationships that promote their development. Their clear intention toward growth advances appropriate conditions in their lives. Jung would call this synchronicity in action. Their faces reflect this openness to the future. Where resignation produces frozen features, they carry fluid expressions, allowing infinite possibility. Their eyes hold curiosity about what life will reveal next, rather than fear of what time will take away. The microcosm and macrocosm, Jung's concept of unus mundus, the unity of all realities reflected in their being. They have understood what alchemists called the unity of microcosm and macrocosm. Their personal transformation is not merely about their aging process. It occurs in harmony with nature's endless cycles. In our technologically saturated American culture, we've become profoundly disconnected from natural rhythms. We work under artificial light, eat food grown in unnatural conditions, override our circadian rhythms with screens and stimulants, and treat nature as something separate from our weekend recreation or Instagram backdrop. The luminous woman has maintained or restored her connection to cyclical time. She attunes herself to seasons, both literal and metaphorical. She honors her body's natural rhythms rather than overriding them with caffeine and willpower. She recognizes herself as nature, not separate from it. Archetypal connection and collective wisdom, spiritual quality. They represent matters not only in their relationship with themselves, but also in their relationship with what Jung called invisible powers, the archetypes. They have learned to consciously work with these universal patterns of human experience, drawing strength and renewal from them. In their presence, we feel archetypal connection as if they carry something beyond their individual lives, as if they access the wisdom of all women who have walked similar paths before them. This collective femininity grants them a timeless authority as they age that has nothing to do with their appearance. Their laughter echoes what Jung recognized as the eternal feminine one of the psyche's fundamental organizing structures. When they speak, we hear not just their personal voice, but something larger speaking through them. The divine feminine uses their personality as a vessel for expression. This permeability requires what Jung called the permeable Self, strong enough to maintain. Identity yet porous enough to remain open to transcendent dimensions. Achieving this balance takes years of dedicated inner work. Once accomplished, these women shine with a clarity that transcends personal boundaries. The Kodianxio, sacred inner marriage, what Jung described as Kodianxio, the mystical marriage of conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, temporal and eternal, manifests in these women. From this inner union is born what alchemists called the divine child, the self fully realized. Their faces become living testimony to this inner harmony. Women carrying this quality have learned what Jung called symbolic living, an existence where every experience expresses more than the obvious. This existential stance protects against the existential vacuum that causes many Americans to age from lack of meaning. In our materialistic, externally focused culture, we often lose touch with the symbolic dimension of life. We reduce everything to literal facts, practical outcomes, and measurable results. The luminous woman lives differently. For her, every day becomes a small ritual of renewal. Relationships serve as mirrors for increased growth. Challenges transform into opportunities for deeper insight. This alchemical attitude means no experience is wasted. Every moment contributes to development. This meaning directly reflects in the vitality of their physical being. When life has purpose, the body responds with energy and resilience. The natural healing function. Acknowledge the psyche's natural healing function, an inherent tendency toward wholeness operating independently of conscious will. In women wearing this extraordinary spiritual quality, this function is consciously activated and nurtured. A continuous process of cellular renewal establishes itself. Moving from inside out, their appearance transforms not through external intervention but through inner evolution. They're not fighting aging or trying to look young, they're living so fully that youthfulness naturally expresses itself. This is radically different from the American approach of attacking aging with increasingly aggressive interventions. The medical industry complex profits from our fear of aging, offering endless solutions that treat symptoms while ignoring root causes. The luminous woman addresses the cause. She lives from her authentic self, and that authenticity radiates as vitality, the accessible path and conclusion. This exploration clearly reveals that the fountain of youth is not in some distant, mythical place but exists as a psychological state accessible to anyone ready to undertake the journey of inner integration and individuation that Jung so thoroughly described. Women, embodying this extraordinary spiritual quality, haven't discovered a secret recipe or magical formula. They have learned to live in harmony with their soul's deep currents, to consciously work with the archetypal patterns shaping human existence, and to maintain a living connection with being's transcendent dimensions. Their apparent youth is actually an expression of spiritual maturity. Their wholeness emerges as physical appearance radiating from within. They have understood what alchemists called opus contra naturam, work against nature paradoxically reveals true nature. In their presence, Americans feeling exhausted by the relentless pressure to perform, produce, and present perfection catch a glimpse of what becomes possible when we consciously direct the forces Jung discovered. They represent not just personal achievement but collective possibility, demonstrating that consciousness development actually reflects in the body, the American context, and transformation. American women particularly, this path offers liberation from cultural tyranny. We live in a society that simultaneously celebrates and fears powerful women, that commodifies femininity while devaluing the feminine, that demands women have it all, while providing little genuine support. The pressure is immense. Be professionally successful but not threatening. Be attractive but not vain. Be strong but not masculine. Be nurturing but not self-sacrificing. Be youthful but age gracefully. Be sexual but not These impossible contradictions create enormous psychological tension that manifests as premature aging, chronic illness, and existential exhaustion. The Jungian path offers a way out. Through individuation, the American woman can step off the treadmill of impossible expectations. She can discover her own authentic nature beneath the layers of conditioning, cultural messaging, and trauma. She can integrate her shadow, including the rage at systemic injustice, the grief over opportunities denied, the shame around natural aging. This integration doesn't mean passive acceptance of oppression. Rather, it creates psychological freedom to respond from wholeness rather than woundedness. The individuated woman can engage in necessary social change from a place of centered power rather than reactive anger. She can advocate for justice without sacrificing her own well-being. She can hold complexity without collapsing into simplistic positions. Practical implications for American life. What does this journey look like in practical American life? It might begin with small acts of rebellion against cultural conditioning, taking genuine rest rather than glorifying exhaustion, pursuing meaning over achievement, valuing wisdom over information, choosing depth over breadth. That involves creating space for inner life in a culture that celebrates constant activity. This might mean meditation, journaling, therapy with a depth-oriented practitioner, time in nature, creative expression, or spiritual practice not as self-improvement projects to optimize performance. but as genuine encounters with soul. It requires honest examination of persona identifications. Who would you be without your career title, your relationship status, your parenting role, your political affiliation, your social media presence? The terror this question often provokes reveals how much identity rests on shaky external foundations. The path demands engagement with shadow. Material Americans typically avoid envy, rage, grief, shame, fear, weakness, failure, limitation. Our positive thinking culture treats these as problems to eliminate rather than teachers to integrate. But Jung understood that the gold lies in the darkness. Transformation happens through descent, not transcendence. The collective dimension. Individual transformation also carries collective significance. Every woman who undertakes this journey weakens the cultural complex around aging and female worth. She becomes living proof that value doesn't diminish with youth. That power increases with wholeness. That radiance flows from authenticity. In Jungian terms, she helps shift the collective consciousness. Her very existence challenges cultural narratives about aging, beauty, and feminine power. She doesn't need to be an activist or influencer. Her integrated presence is itself revolutionary in a culture built on fragmentation and alienation. For younger women, she provides a model beyond the binary of fighting, aging, or surrendering to a relative. She demonstrates a third way, conscious participation in life's natural cycles, drawing wisdom from each phase, growing more fully into herself as time passes. For older women, she offers hope beyond cultural dismissal. American society marginalizes women past reproductive age, treating them as invisible or irrelevant. But the individuated woman knows her power increases as she ages into archetypal wisdom. She becomes crone in the original sense, not a depleted hag, but a powerful holder of sacred knowledge. The integration of masculine and feminine American culture has deeply confused ideas about masculine and feminine energies. Feminism sometimes rejected feminine qualities wholesale in pursuit of equality, while traditionalism confined women to limited roles. Neither extreme serves genuine development. Jung's understanding was more subtle. Every person contains both masculine animus and feminine anima energies requiring integration. The individuated woman has done this inner work. She can access yang qualities: decisive action, clear boundaries, logical analysis, competitive drive without rejecting her yin nature, receptivity, intuition, emotional depth, nurturing capacity. This integration manifests as power without hardness, strength without rigidity, vulnerability without weakness, nurturing without self-abandonment. She moves fluidly between energies as circumstances require, neither confined to stereotypical femininity nor imitating masculinity to gain power. In her relationships, she can receive without becoming dependent, give without becoming depleted, stand her ground without becoming aggressive, show tenderness without becoming submissive. This balance profoundly affects stress levels, hormone balance, and aging. The somatic dimension. Jung recognized that psyche and soma body are inseparable, two aspects of one reality. Transformation must happen at both levels. Many Americans pursue either physical or psychological change while ignoring the other, producing limited results. The luminous woman works with both dimensions. She addresses psychological patterns while also honoring her body's wisdom. She doesn't override exhaustion with caffeine, suppress emotions with medication, or ignore physical symptoms as merely inconvenient. She listens to somatic messages as communications from the unconscious. This might involve somatic therapies, body-centered practices like yoga or attention to nutrition and movement, adequate sleep, and sensory pleasure. Not as self-improvement regimens, but as authentic self-care, literally caring for the self rather than trying to optimize a product. Contemporary neuroscience validates Jung's intuition. We now understand that trauma stores in the body, that emotional patterns have physical signatures, that cellular health responds to psychological states. The polyvagal theory, attachment research, and epigenetics all confirm the psychosoma unity Jung described. The call to transformation. This exploration of Jungian wisdom has deeply impacted your perspective on aging, beauty, and the challenges you face in American life. I invite you to take action. As a symbol of your intention to view life's difficulties, not as obstacles, but as suffering that will transform into wisdom. Write this in the comments. Suffering holds the seed of transformation into light. With this statement, you declare that you acknowledge your challenges and accept responsibility for transforming them into what Jung called Kairos, sacred time of growth and meaning. You commit to the individuation journey. Subscribe to receive more explorations of deep philosophy and psychological awareness, guiding your journey towards spiritual maturation and wholeness. Don't let cultural narratives about aging define your experience. Step into the timeless wisdom Jung revealed. The ultimate understanding. Remember, the greatest beauty is the light radiating from an unmasked, integrated soul. This isn't metaphorical poetry, it's observable reality. The woman who has done her inner work literally glows differently. Her cellular biology responds to psychological wholeness. Her physical presence reflects spiritual attainment. This is possible for you. not by purchasing products, following influencers, or adopting someone else's routine, but by undertaking your own hero's journey into the depths of your psyche, by confronting your shadow, integrating your wounds, connecting with archetypal energies, and consciously participating in your becoming. American culture will continue its frantic fight against aging, its worship of youth, its fear of death, its reduction of women to appearance. You can step off that wheel. You can reclaim your power from cultural narratives that diminish you. You can age into your fullness rather than diminishing into invisibility. The choice is yours. Continue living from the conditioned self, exhausting yourself in pursuit of impossible standards, or begin the sacred work of individuation. One path leads to premature aging, chronic stress, and existential emptiness. The other leads to increasing vitality, deepening wisdom, and radiant presence. Jung's work provides a map for this journey. Not a rigid prescription, but a flexible framework adapted to your unique path. The archetypes are universal, but your relationship with them is entirely personal. The process of individuation follows common stages, but unfolds according to your soul's timing. The luminous women who inspired this exploration didn't start with some advantage. They faced the same cultural pressures, the same wounds, the same fears. What distinguished them was willingness to turn inward, to face what they found there honestly, and to engage in the slow, difficult work of integration. This is your invitation. The fountain of youth, Jung described, psychological wholeness. Producing physical vitality awaits, not in the future after you've achieved certain conditions, but in the present moment's willingness to begin. Each breath offers opportunity for greater consciousness. Each challenge presents invitation to deeper integration. Your radiance doesn't depend on the number of candles on your birthday cake. It depends on the degree of wholeness you've achieved, the completeness of your self-acceptance, and the authenticity of your presence. These qualities don't diminish with age, they increase. The individuated woman grows more luminous over time, not less. This is the promise Jung's work offers. American women willing to undertake the journey. Liberation from cultural tyranny, freedom from fear of aging, access to timeless archetypal energies, and the possibility of becoming in the deepest sense who you truly are. The question isn't whether this path is real or possible. The luminous women prove it is. The question is whether you'll choose it. Will you continue living from conditioning and fear, or will you begin the sacred work of individuation? Your soul already knows the answer. It's been calling you toward this work your entire life. Every crisis, every wound, every moment of wondering, is this all there is, has been preparing you for this journey. Jung understood that the second half of life naturally calls us toward individuation, but we can answer that call at any age. The time is now. Not when circumstances are perfect, when you have more time, when you feel ready. The hero's journey never begins at a convenient moment. It begins when you finally say yes to your becoming, yes to your wholeness, yes to your light. So write your commitment in the comments. Join the community of women consciously choosing individuation over cultural conditioning, wholeness over fragmentation, radiance over resignation. Your journey transforms not only you but contributes to shifting the collective consciousness. The most beautiful woman is not the youngest, the most surgically enhanced, or the most carefully curated. She is the most whole, the most authentic, the most fully herself. That woman can be you not someday, but through choices you make today. This is Jung's legacy to American women. You are so much more than culture tells you. Your worth doesn't diminish with age. Your power increases through integration. Your radiance flows from wholeness. And the journey toward becoming fully yourself is the most worthy adventure of your life. Begin now.